This is a warning. There will be some stories on this channel that may be disturbing to some. Our intentions are not to offend anyone or disrespect anyone by telling these stories and putting these stories out. These are just real people telling real stories about their lives.
Just picture this, a middle-aged Italian man with his hair slicked back, naked in a robe, watching Golden Girls, plotting to murder his own brother. I said, what are you going to do? You going to kill your own brother? He gets up all abruptly, goes in his room, says, you're fucking right, I'm going to kill him. And he comes out with a 38 special. My parents met back in the 70s. Shit was obviously really different back then. My father was 22, my mom was only 15. My father came here when he was 10, 11 years old from Italy, from Rome, on a boat. I believe the year was like 1968. They did the American Dream thing, came here from Italy, opened up a couple restaurants. They had one in Brooklyn, one in Queens on Jamaica Avenue. Make a very long story short, my father was delivering some pizza for the restaurant, and he pulled up on my mom and some of her friends and family in Bensonhurst at 1411 West 4th Street by the N train. Went upstairs. My grandmother, where my mom lived at the time, she lived on the 6th floor. He rang the bell. My mom and her people answered the door, and it was love at first sight. He met my mom. He was supposed to go back to the restaurant, and she was like, hey, you want to party with us? And he was like, yeah, sure, I like to party. And he thought she was absolutely gorgeous, so it was a no-brainer. So he just said, fuck work, never went back to work, and just continued on his day into the night with my mom. The rest is history. Some years later, that's where I came from. Like a lot of relationships, it started off really good. Everything was sweet, and then they started having problems. Back in the 80s, coke was real prevalent, crack obviously as well. My dad started dibbling and dabbling in the drugs. My mom a little bit as well, but then she stopped because she saw she was starting to feel like she was getting hooked or whatever. But my dad continued on. He enjoyed the lifestyle. Back in the day, New York was a different place. There was all kind of peep shows and pimps and prostitutes, pushers all over Times Square. Cars was on fire on cinder blocks, shit like that. It was a different time. The Reagan era, Kosh, all them guys. So my dad used to dip off in the middle of the night, get drugs, do drugs. He sold guns and shit illegally as well. My parents started having a lot of problems, for lack of better words. They started to have a lot of issues. And of course, after I was born, my mom wasn't playing with them kind of games. He had me just dipping off in the middle of the night, not coming home for days on end. He'd pop up, spend some time with me, dip off again. She was finding all kind of little baggies and shit in his coat pockets. She eventually grew tired of it, and she had a sister who was in the group home, and she went upstate to the Hudson Valley, Beacon, Newburgh, Poughkeepsie, Wapages Falls, Middletown, all them places up that way, up the line, up the Hudson. So we would go visit her, my aunt, from time to time. And then my mom decided she really liked it up there. And because her and my dad was having so many problems, it was a no-brainer. One day we just picked up and dipped, went upstate when I was a kid. Um, she got with another man who became essentially like my stepfather, and my dad eventually left New York. And because he was from another country, from Italy, as I said, he decided he wanted to travel the country. So he bought a van, big ass van, had a bed in the back, and he just started traveling the whole United States. He was in LA. Um, he got married to some 18-year-old girl in Vegas. He was one of them, real spontaneous. He liked to have fun. He was a great dude when he wasn't doing bad shit. Um, he went to LA, as I said. They had the LA riots going on at the time back in the early 90s. He got up out of there and he came back to the East Coast. He was in Colorado as well for like 3 years. He was in Colorado, and then he came back to the East Coast. He lived in Florida for a couple years, and then he made his way up the coast. He was in South Carolina, North Carolina, places like that, Maryland, and he eventually came back to New York. And he was homeless. Technically, he was homeless. He didn't have like an official address in between all them places he was staying at. He wasn't the type of person to stay anywhere very long. So he eventually made his way back up to New York. If I was lucky, I might have seen him maybe once or twice a year. Majority
You
of the
said you was the
time,
only kid? You was the only child?
yeah, I was the only child. Yeah, my mother, she was pregnant before me and after me, but due to situations with my dad, she had some abortions. And she's not proud of it. If she could rewind time, she wouldn't have had them. But for whatever reason, I was the one that she chose to have with the help of my grandfather, her dad. He told her to have me. For whatever reason, he got sick of the bullshit as well. And he told her, he was like, you need to have this baby. And then that's where I came from. I could have easily been aborted like the rest of them, but for whatever reason, I was chosen. So here I am. So that what was I saying? So when my dad came back to New York, I seen him. It was periodic, as I said. He was coming. Back then too, there was payphones. There wasn't only rich people had cell phones, so he would call me on the payphone wherever he was at in the country. He would call me on the payphone, say, "Hey Frankie, how's school? How's everything? Are you behaving? I love you. I miss you. Yada yada." And then I would hear that, "Please deposit 10 cents for the next however many seconds or minutes," whatever it was at the time. That was a long time ago. I can't really recollect every little detail, but that's what I do remember. He'd call me on the payphones, and then I wouldn't hear from him again for months. And every now and again, he would come and scoop me, and I'd be sitting in the window waiting for my dad to pull up. And he'd normally come real late at night. He might say, "Go be at my house maybe 9, 10 o'clock in the evening," and then he might not even show up until midnight. There was times he said he'd be there in the morning, still he didn't show up till late at night. He was just one of them kind of guys, very spontaneous, and he got sidetracked very, very easily. So growing up, that's kind of like what I dealt with. I didn't really have them in my life. Like a lot of other people, we don't have our fathers, and we live with our moms or our grandparents or aunties, uncles, whoever, and only your dad could really teach you how to be a real man. So I had to learn how to become a man, but I didn't have my dad. I had my stepdad, but thank God for him. It wasn't exactly the same, but it was better than nothing. And when I was with my dad, I cherished those moments and everything was great. And then I had to go back with my mom, and then that was that on that. Again, I wouldn't see him for a period of months, sometimes a year and a half would go by. When I would see him, it was usually very abrupt. It was like he would call, "Hey, I'm around. I would like to come pick my son up," and then I would see him. And it always happened like that. There wasn't really ever any real planning involved, and that's, I guess, what would create a lot of anxiety and stuff for me as a kid, because I never knew what it was hitting for when it came to my dad. So then he 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 came back to New York, like I said, and I was seeing him for a little bit, and as well as my grandparents. I gotta add that he had his parents. They lived on Broome Street in Manhattan, right across the East River, right over the Williamsburg Bridge. They live in a tall project building on Broome Street, near like Essex
You
and
talking about?
Delancey and all that.
Oh, he's talking
So
about in
what?
Manhattan.
Yeah, Manhattan in the city, right next to like Chinatown, the Lower East Side, Alphabet City.
And he's talking about them. I think that's Seward Park houses.
Yeah, it's a big building. Um, it's literally right when you get over the Williamsburg Bridge, because I lived on 420 Union Avenue prior to moving upstate with my mom. So I'm familiar with that area. That it's literally right over the bridge. There's a big building, and it's got like a big structure on the top of it. Um, and there's a parking lot in the back. Back in the days, there was a Rite Aid on the corner. There's a church right on the side of it. There's a police station right in that area, right next to it as well. But yeah, so I would spend a lot of time there as well on Broome Street with my grandparents. And if I was lucky, my dad would pull up. Like I said, he was dibbling and dabbling with drugs and shit. He had an alcohol problem, shit like that. But he always had a good head on his shoulders. My family was always in business on his side of the bridge. There was, like I said, all Italians. My mom is Hispanic, by the way. She's Puerto Rican. But she's light skinned. She's like Fat Joe, real light skinned. They thought she was Italian for the longest. And then when my mom and my dad had me, one of the first things out of my grandmother's mouth was like, she was surprised that I came out light skinned. And it's like, what do you expect? Both my parents is light skinned. They wasn't racist or none, but they had beliefs. They believed that people should marry within their own race, but they treat everybody equal. They weren't true racists. Like, they didn't dislike my mom just because they found out she was Hispanic. She was by the time they found out, she was already part of the family. So my mom always had a very strong relationship with my grandparents on my father's side because they loved her. She was like, my grandparents' daughter. They have a daughter. I'll get to that later in the story. They had 3 kids. It was my father. Then they had his sister. She was the middle child, and then his little brother. And I'll get to that later in the story. My father's name was Franco, for the record. And then he got a sister named Joanna. And then the little brother, his name is Fabrizio. And he's a real cocksucker. And I'm going to get to that later in the story. So after the last few times I seen my dad back then, like I said, he traveled the whole country, and he ended up coming across an ad in the paper when he was back up in the Northeast, like New York area, New Jersey, wherever he was at. He bounced around so much. Every time I talked to him on the phone, he was someplace different. But somehow, some way, he came across an ad in the paper. They was looking for someone to manage a restaurant out here where I'm at now, out here in PA, Pennsylvania. So he went to see what it was all about, and they offered him a job to manage this big, fancy schmancy restaurant out there, because he obviously had the experience having restaurants back home in New York. So he came out here, and it was like a cakewalk, real affordable living. He was buying property, all that. He was getting his life together again. And he met a woman at the restaurant, and they hit it off. And it was at that point that I started to see him a little more, because he was actually settled down somewhere, and he was with this woman. Her name was Sandra, and she had a son. His name is Jimmy, and he was the only child as well, just like me. So it was kind of natural that we all just kind of clicked. He'd come He'd come upstate New York, pick me up, and take me out here to Pennsylvania. And it was a bit of a culture shock. It wasn't, I thought New York was the world. I only ever really went to Chicago to visit some of my mom's family out there because her dad remarried and he ended up in Chicago with another woman. So I'd go to Chicago during the summer. I was always in Chicago. And then he got sick, got cancer, lung cancer, and he went to Florida. And then I started going to Florida. That was a reason for me to go down south. But I've never been anywhere that was like this place in Pennsylvania where I'm at now. And it's not as bad as it was nowadays. But back then it was like 99.99% white people. There was like one or two black families in the whole area. It was crazy. It was a culture shock. I've never seen a place like this. It's like the hills have eyes. So I'd always laugh at it, make jokes, stuff like that. But all in all, it was a nice area. I saw what my dad seen in it, why he was so fond of it. Lots of mountains and trees everywhere. It's a beautiful place, I'm not gonna lie, but it wasn't my cup of tea. Back then I was still, as well as I do back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the style was different, the slang was different, everything was different. And I was on that type of time. So when I'd come out here, I would like to, poke fun at people, shit like that, and act like my shit was ice cream and everyone wanted a scoop because I was from New York. So it was easy for me to come out here and flex and get girls and stuff like that. I was having really good experiences out here when he would come and pick me up and I'd come out here and spend time. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, my birthday. And it seemed like a really good situation because he met this woman and he was finally settling down. And it seemed like he was really starting to prioritize everything in his life that was truly important. And obviously one of those things was me. So as I said, it was a really good look for him. It was a really good look for us. I was spending more time with him. But then what ended up happening was every time I would come back to New York, I was, start missing him again. I don't know what it was. So I was just going through adolescent things, hanging out with a lot of knuckleheads. I was in the street a lot, doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing. I didn't have any brothers and sisters. I think that also has a lot to do with a lot of decisions that I made because I would get bored. My mom was always at work. She was like a big manager at a J.C. Penney somewhere up in a place called Poughkeepsie, New York. She at a mall. When she was at work, she'd take the bus, go to work, come home, late hours of the night. I'd be doing all kinds of shit, cooking up drugs on the stove. I got caught doing shit like that quite a few times. I was fucking up in school. I was hanging out with, gang members and all kind of dumb shit. And then I wound up in some trouble. I kept getting suspended back to back to back. I would get suspended from school and I would come back to school from the suspension just to get suspended for something else that very same day, for some shit that they found out about while I was suspended. It was terrible. Like, I just was a knucklehead as a kid. They had me going to counseling and therapy. They had me on medication, all kinds of shit. And then I started messing around with guns and different. I don't want to say too much over the phone. I don't want to incriminate myself, but let's just say, in a nutshell, I was doing a lot of things I had no business doing at a very, very young age. And I got jammed up with some other guys, some other kids at the time, and I ended up having to do some time in the group home. Started out with the group homes, and they said that I had psychiatric problems. So then they started sending me to psychiatric centers. I had a probation officer. Back then they had something called PINs, person in need of supervision. And they put me on PINs just to keep an eye on me. But I didn't take that seriously. So I just kept doing the same old stupid shit. And eventually it caught up to me. I did a little year in the group home. I might do 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 10 months. Come out 6, 7 months, get jammed up in something again. Now I'm back in the group home again. Then from the group homes and the psychiatric centers, then the judge got tired of me and he started putting me in places like Spofford, aka Bridges. I was in Pyramid in the Bronx. I was in Leakin Watts, in Westchester County, like Yonkers area somewhere. It was so long ago, I don't remember exactly what town or city it was in, but it was basically Yonkers. I was in Pope Pius 12 upstate. They had me up in Buffalo. They had me in Albany. They had me at this place called Louis Gossett Jr. way upstate, Lansing, New York, like by the Finger Lakes and shit, by like Syracuse and Utica. Um, that place was the last place I was at. So that had came to be was I had a gun and I did something I wasn't supposed to with it. Um, it went off in my apartment. I almost blew my head off. My mom heard it because I was playing hooky that day. I forgot to mention that part. My mom heard it and she knocked on, I was in the bathroom. She knocked on the bathroom door. She's like, "What was that?" I was like, "It was nothing. I dropped something in the sink." She's like, "That was mighty loud to just be something that had gotten dropped in the sink." I gave her all my, um, don't worry about it. It's nothing. I'm in the bathroom, like go away type stuff, please. I need some privacy. So then after she left the door, I'm in there with all kind of drugs and I had guns and a duffel bag and all that. And that came from someone I rode the school bus with. The reason he gave all that to me was because I had an altercation with some people on my block. I went to the Rite Aid to get my medication because, like I said, I had psychiatric issues at the time. I went to go pick up my script, and on my way home, I got jumped by like 5, 6 dudes. So then, out of retaliation, now I'm trying to do something that I shouldn't have been doing. So now I go get a gun. I had no business doing that. Like I was
So,
gonna do something.
so what happened that day? Why they jumped you?
I got jumped because, like I said, I was doing the gang stuff back then, and somebody from, I'm gonna call it the ops. Back then we didn't call each other ops, but nowadays I guess you could say this in particular individual was a op, so to speak, quote unquote. So he got jumped by some people from, I'm gonna say, my team, whatever you want to call it, my side of the bridge. And out of retaliation for him, because they beat him bad, they fucked him up. Like he was in the hospital and everything. He got it. Like, I seen him. His eye, it didn't even look like a fucking eye anymore. It looked bad. So out of retaliation for that, they got me. And I knew nothing about this. This was just, I heard what happened to him, but I wasn't expecting anything to happen to me. And I had that funny feeling like when I left the Rite Aid that day and I'm walking to my house, to my building, I walked by the corner store. There's a little bodega about a block and a half up the ways from where I lived at. And there was a bunch of dudes from school. Like I knew who they were. I wouldn't say we was friends or whatever, more like acquaintances. And I just didn't like the vibes I was getting. So I started walking faster. And then I tried to juke them and cut through the alleyway. And nigga, even longer story short, they caught up with me. They figured out where I went. And they came out from the side street. And the one dude hit me with a brick. So that's how the whole thing came to be with me getting guns and things like that, because I know my mom got to walk on that street late at night. When she gets off that bus, she's gonna walk home from the bus stop, and how do I know they're not gonna try to do something to her? That's my mom. So I'm 16 years old at the time. I'm not thinking about anything that could possibly happen, any kind of consequences, repercussions. Like I thought about it, it's in my subconscious mind, but at the end of the day, that's my mom. So you already know what I was planning to do. But before any of that could even happen, I was messing around, acting like Rambo in my room. And I took the shit to the bathroom because I was gonna try to hide it all underneath the sink in the bathroom, and the shit went off. And it was a, for the record, it was a sawed-off shotgun, 12 gauge. Shit went off into the ceiling. I'm not gonna be able to hide that hole, so I don't. It was inevitable for me to get caught, and so when my mom heard the blast, she asked me what happened. I tried to give it a run around. That, of course, didn't work. I came out the bathroom, went back in my room. Like I said, I played hooky that day. I played sick, but it's not because I was sick. It's because I had it out for these dudes. So I'm in my room playing PS2 at the time, and my mom comes in the room, and she's giving me this strange look, and I'm like, "Ma, what's up? Like, why are you looking at me like that?" And then she had something like tucked behind her back, and I'm like, "What's that?" And she, exposes it, and it's the gun, and I'm like, "Fuck." So now she's flipping out on me, like, "What are you doing, bringing guns in my house? This, that, and the third." And I'm, of course, copping the plea and giving her my reasoning for it, and she's like, "I don't care. That's not a good reason. You're gonna get yourself in trouble, and if you get caught with this, there's probably nothing I'm going to be able to do for you. This is a gun. This isn't a game. People die from people with guns." They're giving me the whole spiel. So I apologized, and she went back in her room, and she's like, "I want you to think about what you've done and what you were planning on doing, and ask yourself if any of that is really worth it." So I just sat in my room to simmer with my thoughts, and she went back in her room. Next thing I know, she comes back to my room, and she's got my probation officer on the phone. And I already had a court date coming up from one of the group homes I was in. I got myself in some trouble. I had some aggravated assault charges and things of that nature from some staff that was trying to restrain me in the group home that I was in prior to that. And I had a court date coming up. So the thing with the guns and stuff, that was just the icing on the cake. So when I went to court, they said that they were going to give me a year at this place in upstate New York somewhere. And it's like far away from everything I ever known. It was, like I said, by the Finger Lakes, some place called Lansing, New York. It's way up there. I went there for like a year. And in that place, I saw even more shit that I probably shouldn't have been exposed to when I was a kid. Sexual harassment, assault. There was staff members that was breaking kids' arms. When I first got there, I saw this kid. The whole side of his face was basically torn off. And mind you, he was a black kid or Dominican, whatever he was. He was dark skinned. His whole side of his face was pink, like to the white meat. They would take kids' faces and dig them into the carpet. They used to call the place Rugburn City. That was like its unofficial name. And it was a place that they would always talk about when I was in and out of the system in OCFS. They would always say, "You don't want to go there." That place and Spofford, which was also called Bridges at the time. Spofford ain't there anymore either. None of these places are there anymore because they were that terrible. When I heard I was going to that place, it shook me up a bit because of all the stories that I had heard prior to going there. When I got there, like I said, first thing I seen when they they checked me in, and I'm going through the whole intake process, I see this kid walk by with one of the staff. They had this thing called arm's length supervision, and I didn't know what that was there at the time, but I was wondering why he was walking so close to the staff member, and the staff member kept playing games with him. He would like stop real quick, and then try to jog off on him, because if he's not within arm's length, they would hit this little orange button on the walkie talkies that they had. And when they hit that orange button, it was something they called the pin, PIN. They hit that pin and it sends a signal, an alarm, if you will, to all the rest of the staff members on that unit, on the next unit, and then you just hear everybody coming up the corridor like wolves, like a pack of fucking like wild animals, and they would just bum rush the unit and just start fucking kids up. And I seen that my first introduction to this place, they came and that's what they did. And like I said, this was a very dark skinned, high melanin individual. And when he turned his face and I seen that he wasn't black or brown on the other side of his face, it was all white and pink. I knew what it was. I knew what it was hitting for. I said, fuck, I gotta be here for a year. How am I gonna get through this? And it was bad. I caught a little case in there, but because of how young I was, it didn't stick. They knocked some stuff down and they went easy on me. Something that happened in there with me, it made the newspaper even. A couple of the places I was in, some things happened with me that made the newspaper. I got cut in my arm. Kid stabbed me or whatever. I was trying to choke him and he pulled something out his pocket and he jammed it into my elbow a couple of times. I got like 20 stitches. I had to go to physical therapy. That's another story. Just in a nutshell, these are the type of places that I was in. There was a
What
lot of
happened
violence.
between you and that kid though? Like, why y'all popped off?
He was basically just showing out in front of some females in the class, because you know how it is in places like that. They have like day programs. You know, like you still got to go to school and get your education, stuff like that. You have phys ed, you have rec time. You can watch TV, play the game. That's in the places that are more showing off in front of some girls that was in the classroom. They was in a different cottage. Like that was from a different place I was in. That wasn't the place that I was just telling you about. But that was just one of the things that I had went through at another place. So I knew what it was hitting for, because I said, damn, if that place was as bad as it was, and now I'm in this place and I've heard a lot worse things about this place, I'm fucked. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was in places where they would put me amongst gang members, you know, from all in and out of the city. That's what they would do. They would take kids from the city and send them way upstate and fuck their minds up. That's what they would. I was in them places with people from Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, various neighborhoods in Queens, the Bronx, you name it. We was all in there. People from in and around the city, they would take us and put us upstate, far away from everything we know. When I went to Pius 12, I was high as a kite. They shot my ass up with Thorazine because I had a court date that day. And they never came to get me for my court date. So I start showing out, and making a long story short, they hit that little button. Every place I was in, for the record, they always had like either a button at like the you know, like the where people get checked in at, where you got the lady on the computer and the med line and all that, wherever they did that. And they always had walkie talkies. So like I said, back then, it was a different time. I don't know how them places are now, but back then, it was nothing for a person to just cut somebody in the face. The whole unit gets shut down, and we on lockdown for a whole week. And for one individual, because somebody was having a bad day, maybe they didn't get their phone call, and they was you know, mad because they wanted to talk to their family. A lot of kids had children, believe it or not, at a young age. You know, we're all 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. That's considered you max out. And if you still have to serve some time, they'll just send you to an actual jail to finish out the remainder of your time. And make a long story short, they didn't come and get me for the court date. So I start turning up. They pushed the pin on me. And I had a little girlfriend in the place I was at the time. I was on a psychiatric unit at a hospital somewhere, a place called St. Francis Hospital. And I was in her room, and I got caught, and they was trying to get me to go back to my room, and I wasn't having it. I was young, dumb, full of cum. I was trying to get it in with the girl low key while the staff was making their rounds and stuff. I used to put shit in the bed, make it look like I was in there asleep taking a nap. They flashed a little light in the room, and then they proceed and go on to the next room. So that's what I did. And I knew I had a court date. They never came and got me. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go get some pussy. And I don't care if I get caught because they never came to get me for my court date. So they came to the room where I was at with the girl. They knew I was in there somehow. I don't know how, but they knew I was in there. They like, where he at? The girl's like, I don't know. What are you talking about? Who's he? Oh, we know he's in here. He's not in his room. He thinks he's slick. Where's he at? So they start searching the room. I'm trying to hide under the bed and shit. It's a small room. There's really no other places to hide except for the bathroom. And so they pushed the pin on me. They all came in the girl's room. They come fucking me up, trashing me. I'm kicking them. I'm biting them. I had this thing. I'm a skinny dude. I'm not the biggest guy in the world. If I could get around somebody's neck, I'm doing it. So I got around the one staff. I'm choking the shit out of him. They're all beating me over the head with shit, fucking me up. Then they restrained me. It was about 5 or 6 of them. They restrained me. They pulled my pants down, no diddy, and they stuck this big ass needle in my ass cheek, and I could feel that shit like go into my bloodstream in my ass muscle. I'm talking about, this shit was a big ass fucking needle, bro. This shit was like a good, at least maybe 10 inches long. I don't want to over exaggerate, but it ain't no little baby ass needle. It was almost a foot fucking long. They stick that shit in the meat of your ass, and they inject you with this shit. It's called Thorazine. If you look up what Thorazine is, that shit is like a horse tranquilizer. That shit, you can't fight it. You go on night. There's no way around it. You go on the bed. So after that whole ordeal, I took a fat ass nap because it's a tranquilizer. I wake up and they got me in handcuffs and shit. I don't really remember too much. They took me to Pius 12 on Ray Street in a small city in upstate New York called Poughkeepsie. They took me up there, and I went through the whole intake process, and they strip search me, the whole nine. They do this thing. They give you like a bath with this stuff called green soap. And I guess that's to kill parasites and bugs and shit, lice. That shit'll kill whatever. The green soap kills all. That's all I know. I did it enough times to know that it's just a procedure they do in jail, in group homes, psychiatric units, juvenile detention centers. Everywhere I've ever been, they gave me the green soap. So I'm all fucked up on this Thorazine. I did my little baby bit at this place called Pius 12. And then from there, I went to a couple other places. I don't want to drag the story too much. And I did my little time in these places, and I went back home. And then I got into the situation that I was telling you about earlier with the gun. And my mom called my dad. She was like, your son he's doing the most, in her own words. Now I got guns in my house. You need to do something about this. You need to have a talk with him. Something. There's only so much I could do. Now I had like I said, I got a stepdad. He's a respectable black man, and I always looked up to him, and he always kept it funky with me. No matter what I was going through in my life, he always told me not what I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear. And like everybody said, take the gun, take the drugs, take everything he had in that duffel bag and chuck it. But my mom, being how she is, she slipped up and said too much to somebody from the school because they was wondering why I wasn't in school that day. She slipped up. She said, I don't know what she said, but next thing I know, the probation officer was calling, asking what was going on. She told them the truth because she was worried about me because she feel like if I got guns in the house and I just got jumped and I was in the hospital because I had a concussion, and I was worried what the next thing they might do is. And like I said, when my mom's walking home from the bus stop late at night, anything could happen. So I'm headhunting. I don't care. I skipped school. I played sick. I'm in the bathroom of my crib loading up. I'm ready to just I'm going people hunting at that point. 16 years old, going on 17 years old. I didn't give a fuck. I was ready to just go find these people, and somebody had to pay for what they did to me, and I was going to get them before they could to get to me again or someone else I'm close with. And it was mainly my mom that I was worried about, because everybody in my neighborhood knows my mom and they know that I'm her son. So that's what I was essentially worried about. That was my whole thought process at that time, was I was just going to take care of the problem. I was going to go directly to the source and eliminate it. And it all made sense, when I'm 16, 17 years old. You think you could get away with all kinds of shit that young. And back then there wasn't cameras everywhere. That all that gentrification shit, that was only just starting back then in the early 2000s. So all these cameras and shit, like nowadays you go to the city and surrounding areas, now there's cameras everywhere. Back then it wasn't like that. You could just poke somebody up in a fucking dark alley somewhere and you might get away with it as long as you wasn't sloppy about it. Not saying that I ever did that, but I've seen it before. And yeah, that was what I thought was the right thing to do, being young minded at the time. And next thing I know, they came and got me at my apartment where I lived at. They asked my mom what was in the bag. She didn't give up nothing. She just said nothing, because I had a bag in the house, but they didn't have a warrant or anything. So they didn't find any drugs, any guns, nothing like that. My mom was at least smart enough to do that. My father told her, take everything in this bag and throw it in the Hudson River. Now, I don't know if that's what she ultimately did, because I wasn't there. They just cuffed me, and they took me to some holding facility somewhere, and I went to a court date that I literally had the next day, and that was the icing on the cake. Like I said, I had aggravated assault charges from a group home I was in, and they was trying to hit me with a felony, but because I was so young at the time, they gave me a break. Because I don't know how it is nowadays, but in New York State, they could charge you as an adult at 16 years of age, and I was 16. But when I did what I had done, which was the reason for me going to that court date in the first place, I was still only 15. I was 15, just about to be 16. So it happened basically at a time when um it was at a time when I couldn't get in trouble for what I did like an adult would. So what happened was they knocked all them charges down to lesser charges, and I just ended up having to go upstate to this place called Louis Gossett. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with the actor Louis Gossett Jr., but he had a residential center way upstate New York in Lansing. And that's where they sent me, like I told you earlier. So I went there for that situation with the gun charge, and they tried to hit me with everything from like discharge of a firearm within 200 feet of a residence to modifying a firearm illegally for concealment purposes, and the serial number was filed off and all that. They found other weapons as well, pistols and things of that nature. I had all kind of shit, but the main thing was the shotgun going off in the crib, and I almost blew my head off by accident. Um, my ear to this day still rings. I have tinnitus in my left ear because of the blast so close to my face. My shit was ringing. And when I did that little bid, lots of things went on in there that I never want to see again. and I maxed out. I was 17, going on 18, and right around my 18th birthday, I was released. Now, who comes to get me from there? It was my father and my grandfather at the time. They had arranged, to make a very long story short, when I did my time in this place, uh, they arranged for me to come to Pennsylvania. So my father came and he picked me up, and that's how I ended up here. Um, I was in that place. Some things happened where I could have done. I caught other charges while I was in there, but something happened where the news people got involved, and they came and started interviewing a bunch of us adolescents in there because there was a lot of shit going on in that place that was bad for business. And they basically was just trying to sweep it all under the rug. So they made a deal with me, like they're not going to pursue any more than they had to. And I just finished out my little thing, and I was done because of what happened to me. It was basically, I was abused in there, as well as a lot of other people. There was people getting raped and all kind of shit. It was a fucked up place to be. Um, and they said that if I agree to just not talk to these people, whoever came in to interview the kids and stuff, and just not pursue any kind of charges and things, that they just gonna let everything that happened in there go, and I'm gonna get out come the spring, easy peasy, and go about my merry way and continue living all of my life. So I wasn't trying to get anybody in trouble. So I just did that. And when my time was up, my time was up. I got out of there. I didn't have any more pending charges, none. I have 5 years probation. I went to Penn State, which is a college, and my probation officer back there, he spoke with a judge, and they got everything wiped clean, and I didn't even have to do the 5 years because I wasn't even supposed to be here in PA in the first place. I guess somebody fucked something up somewhere. They didn't something wasn't filled out properly. Someone wasn't informed upon my arrival and me becoming a resident here. And because of the legal system, the judicial system, the way it works, I guess they got to go through the proper protocols and things from one person going from one state to the next. And somebody fucked something up. So I wasn't supposed to be here, according to them. So then it became a big dilemma, and my probation officer back home presented everything that I had going on, positive things here that I was doing at the time. He he gave it to the judge, and they decided that it would be better for me for them to just wipe everything clean, and I could just start my life all over again in a whole nother environment, a whole nother state, and everything that I had going on back there was just swept under the rug. Now it's all done. So now I'm an adult. I'm out here. I'm living my life. Everything's great. I'm with my dad. I told you the story with my dad. I didn't really have much of a relationship with him growing up. It was like high and by, high and by. And the first couple of years was really good. He was in business. He had a bunch of property. He cleaned his life up tenfold. He was so well off that he didn't have to work anymore. He had a restaurant. He ended up buying another restaurant. The woman he was with, him and her went into business together. But here's the problem. That fell through. It was always her dream to have her own business. And because they started having relationship problems, and he knows the aspects of business, and I guess she didn't. So she kept wanting to hire unnecessary help, take young kids who was on drugs and things off the street, give them jobs, help them out, things of that nature. And he was getting pissed because he's like, we can't take care of everyone. You're spreading us out too thin. We need to take all the money that we're making and build this business up. And we're unable to do that if you keep giving everybody jobs and things. Because that's obviously more people on the payroll, and they got that other things to worry about than little young drug addict kids who need help or whatever the case. None of my business. So, anyways, they had their problems, their dilemmas, and things. They had a major fallout, for lack of better words, and my dad didn't want to be in business anymore with this in particular woman because in his mind she was fucking it all up, and it was creating a lot of problems in their relationship. So fast forward however many months later, years, whatever it was, that's when my dad's brother comes into the picture. Now my dad's brother, he's a real snake motherfucker, and he was married to this Jew bitch in Manhattan on the west side of Central Park, for some years. And mind you, he met her through my father back in the day. And she had a lot of money. She was a Jewish woman. Her name was Donna. She's passed away since, God bless her soul and all that. But I guess she had a coke problem and she couldn't have kids anymore. So my uncle and her, they adopted a little girl from a bad situation, named her after my grandmother. Her name was Anina, Italian woman. They named the little girl after her, and they were, like I said, they lived in West Central Park for many years. Well, they had a fallout of some kind. They got a divorce, and they had a bunch of property in Queens somewhere. My grandparents' house was one of those properties, and my grandmother had passed away. After that happened, my uncle, my dad's brother, he somehow, some way convinced my grandfather, my grandmother's husband, to give up the house, and he took control of everything, sold it, and then my grandfather went back to 420 Union Avenue in Brooklyn. And with the money he got from the settlement, from the divorce, my uncle, I'm speaking of, he took all that money. He had like a $500,000 or something like that, so I'm told. And he went back to Italy with it. Took the little girl, went back to Italy, and he set up shop somewhere back in Italy somewhere. And he linked up with some distant relatives of mine. The one guy, his name's Benito. He's a piece of work. I'm not gonna get into that. But he pimped his wife out. Some woman they call puttana, which means basically, essentially, that's a whore in Italian. So he pimped his wife out to get money and things. And for whatever reason, my uncle thinks it's a swell idea to give this man hundreds of thousands of dollars, puts it in his bank account. And what happens? The guy robs him. So now my uncle's left with nothing. He meets some woman. Oh yeah, and prior to that, I don't know when this woman came into the picture because I wasn't there. He meets a Chinese woman who speaks fluent Italian in Italy, and I guess they get married and have a kid. Now he's got his very first child, biologically, not adopted, and he's obviously half Chinese. So he's got this little boy, 5-6 months old, and he's struggling because our own family robbed him of a bunch of money that, for whatever reason, he decided that it was a good idea for him to put it into his bank account. It's a lot of little funny shit that went on for reasons I'll never know. Why are we putting that much money in someone else's bank account? It's very sus. I'll never know why he did it, but that's what happened. So he robbed him, all that money. Now he's asked out. He tells my dad of this over the phone, and my dad says, Fabrizio, come back to the United States. Don't go to New York though. Come to PA where I'm at. It's nice here. It's affordable living here. You can start your life over. You, your wife, your adopted daughter and your new baby boy come back to the States, come to PA. I have a business. It's not going well with the woman I'm with this business. I want to give it to you. So he comes back to the United States with, I hear he had $600 in his pocket. That was it. Barely anything. And my dad gives him a business scot clean. And the agreement was, you just give me, I forget what it was, 1,000 a week or 2,000 every other week, something like that. They had a verbal agreement because my dad wasn't trying to go back to work. He already put his years in, and he knew what it was like to have it as well as not have it. He said, all I ask is you just break me off with what I'm asking for every week, every other week, whatever it is, and we're good. He said, you need any help around the restaurant, I'll help you. So that's what happened. So my dad and this woman he was with are officially, they're done with this business, and now my uncle's running it. And mind you, he got the business for free, as I said, totally like, just here, you just give me some money every week for however long, and we're good. And so that went on for a period of time, and everything seemed to be great. And I was here in PA, and everything was fine. And I had myself a little girlfriend, and I was happy. I started my life completely over, and I was real young, and I had my whole life ahead of me, and everything was going stupendously. It was great. Everything that I ever wanted, I had. Growing up in New York, if I wanted a dog, that was a problem because we live in an apartment building, and I was always into exotic animals too. And my mom was always like, nah, no dogs, no cats, no snakes, no this, no that. I had everything: tarantulas, scorpions, lizards, snakes, turtles, all kind of shit. And it was always a problem when I lived in New York. But when I came out here, bro, I turned the whole room into like an exotic petting zoo. I had everything I ever wanted. Plus, I had my father in my life again. Now, like I said, everything's going well for a good period of time, a year and a half. All of a sudden, something happened between my father and his brother where they started having little low-key animosity towards each other. My father had a piece of property in Brooklyn in Williamsburg, that 420 Union Avenue I keep speaking of. That was my dad's building. Wasn't much. It was like a 6-unit apartment building, couple stories high. It was nothing special. It wasn't like a huge building or anything, but he had it appraised, and at the time, back in the early 2000s, it was worth well over $1 million. And for whatever reason, he got himself some lawyer in Brooklyn and another guy in Queens by the name of Fred Hollard. And him and my uncle, for whatever reason, signed the building over into my uncle's name. And I witnessed it. My father had me come with him to Queens. It was in Ridgewood in Queens somewhere. Or it might have been Hollis, Queens. It doesn't matter. It was in Queens. That's all I remember. And they signed the papers and all of that. Prior to that, I said to my dad, I said, I don't think it's a good idea that you sign this building over into your brother's name. He's a snake. This is the same guy that told, your father, which is my grandfather, to get a surgery because he had a couple tumors in his lungs that they were saying was benign anyways. It's benign, but he kept pushing for him to do it. He got the surgery, and he says to my father in Italian, if I would have known that it was going to be like this, I never would have done it. Then he says, don't trust your brother. In Italian, he said he went to Italy. He was spending way too much time with Benito, and he's not who you think he is. He's a snake. You got to watch him. Snakes come with smiles. Basically, more or less in Italian is essentially what he told him. He said he could act nice, but you cannot trust this man. So I reminded him of all that. Now my grandfather's dead and gone. He ended up passing away from the medication they was giving him. He was in a bad car accident on 78. on his way back to New York because he was living out here as well. I didn't mention that because I didn't feel like it was relevant, but my father brought him out here to PA to finish out however much life he had left after my grandmother had passed away. And my grandfather was a bit of like, he was like an old Mac, like a gigolo, if you will. He had many girlfriends and he would flash his money around and he'll be back and forth between here and New York, maybe sometimes two, three, four times in one day. He was crazy like that. He would just come back and forth, back and forth. He loved driving. And I think he was just doing a little too much the one day. He might have been tired or whatever, and he got in a real bad car accident on 78 with a big ass Mack truck. He survives that. Might have had to get a little surgery on half his body and get a bunch of stitches. But then when he has the surgery for the tumors in his lungs and they give him the medication for that, somehow, some way, it fucks his liver up and he passes away in my dad's arms in the doctor's office. That's another story. So now my grandfather he's no longer with us, but I reminded my dad of everything that my nonno had said to him, which is Italian for grandfather. I said, remember what he said. You can't trust this man. Do not sign this property over to him. He said, oh, Frankie, he's my brother. I known him my whole life. I'm 9 years older than him. He would never do anything like that. Everybody just needs to relax and not worry so much about it. I got this. It's good. I'm like, all right, no problem. I'm like, but can I ask you something? Why are you doing this in the first place? Why are you signing this building over to him? What's the reason? And it was always like real hush hush. It was none of our business as far as he was concerned. But they have some sort of little weird suspect business arrangement that a lot of us in my family, we still don't know exactly what happened and why they did that, but that was what they did at the time. So he signs the building over and he's running the restaurant from my dad at the same time. Now my uncle has this building and he's staying on top of everything, paying my dad money regularly, and as well as taking care of whatever had to be taken care of with the building and things like that. In the meantime, in between time, my dad's relationship with the woman he was with is deteriorating for a plethora of reasons that I don't feel is relevant for me to get into. But just keep that in mind, that my father's relationship was basically in ruins. They just did not have a healthy relationship. They were together 10, 11 years, maybe 12 years, something like that. And it's like most relationships, it starts off great. And then somehow, some way, something goes left somewhere and they started having problems. So now he's spending all his time at the restaurant with his brother, trying to help him with that. I'm working there part-time. Because I had a little girlfriend at the time, and I'm trying to make up for lost time because I gave OCFS like 5 years of my life. As a teenager, I'm in and out of group homes and juvies and all of that, taking all kind of medicine. My brain's all over the place. I'm just trying to start my life over and hang out with my girl. So that's what I was doing, and I whatever time I spent with my dad was mainly at the restaurant or at home because we lived together, but then he was also with his girlfriend in another town nearby. So back to the restaurant. One day, it was Christmas. We're all at a function. We had a big family function. My father moves his sister out here and her kids. They were originally from Ridgewood, Queens, and then they was living in Staten Island. And their parents went through a huge divorce, and my father and his brother moved their sister out here. So we're all, her, myself, my dad, my uncle, his wife, kids, everybody's there. There's like a good 20-something, 30 of us, a bunch of family and relatives from like New York and stuff like that. We all was out here at the restaurant breaking bread, so to speak, for the holidays. And my uncle has a camcorder set up on the tripod so he can record the family event. Well, I didn't like that. I I was used to being on camera, being in the system and stuff. I didn't like that at all. I see this little red light blinking, let me know the camera's rolling and I'm being recorded. So I low key shut the camera off, which I'm happy I did, and I'll get to that why I'm happy I shut that camera off. We're all sitting around the table, eating, conversing, socializing, doing the family thing. And when it was all said and done, and it was time for everybody to leave, like I said, this is like Christmas of '08, and I was like 19 years old at the time. And my dad and his brother, they have words after everyone leaves. There was only a few of us that was still there. They had some words. Next thing you know, my dad starts flipping out, throwing shit, breaking shit. There's all kind of big jars of like stuff for the restaurant, like like hot peppers, banana peppers, pickles, tomatoes, like jarred up tomatoes and things that you would typically see in an Italian restaurant. Big, massive jars of this shit. And he just starts chucking all kind of shit off the walls because it was all lined up on the walls. There was shelves in the back of the restaurant where everything was kept, and he just started cleaning house, breaking everything. So we're all like, what the fuck's going on? Well, I guess my uncle decided he wanted to buy a bunch of property across the street in the neighborhood that he lived in. So my dad's like, yeah, that's great and all, but you still got to pay me back. And plus, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but my dad, he was into buying property and stuff as well. So he had his own properties and things that he just bought, fixed up, flipped, sold, made his money. And now he's sitting back comfortably for a while, and he's just basically collecting whatever he had to collect from the restaurant. So he sold this nice house. I helped him fix it up, and he gave his brother, at the time, it was like 40, 50,000, something like that, just to help him out. And it was nothing. Like, my dad had money. It was no big deal to him. He was just like, here, you're my brother. I love you. Here, whatever I got to do to help you. But now this is going to set us back because you're going to have to now owe me back. It's like, essentially, it's like a credit card or a credit union. He starts treating my dad like he's a fucking credit union. And every time my dad would help him, he would pay him back for a period of time, only to ultimately wind up asking him for something else, which was now setting him back. So if you got a loan and you're supposed to be done in 3 to 5 years, whatever it is, paying the loan off, and now you just keep starting over and over and over again, and it started to piss my dad off. So he told me he needs to stick to his principles. And now my uncle's popping shit saying like, oh, I'm not saying I'm not gonna pay you back. I'm just saying it's gonna be a little late. And my dad wasn't trying to hear that. And my uncle's he's a snarky fuck. And he was saying shit in ways that sounded like he was making it seem like he thought it was a game. And my dad wasn't having it. He was playing with my dad's money, messing around with his emotions, so to speak. And so he flipped the fuck out, started breaking everything in the restaurant. He's like, you're going to stick to your fucking principles. I'm not going back to work. I did my time working. I'm just trying to chill. I'm 50 years old. Knock it the fuck off. Give me my money type shit. And my uncle was still playing games. So my dad was about to kill him on some real shit. Like, to be honest, he was getting to that point. I could tell he was going to do something crazy. So I went and I got him. I gripped him up. Like, Dad, let's go. Come on. He's just trying to get to you. He wanted to do that, and he had that camera set up on that tripod to try to basically set him up. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew when it was all said and done and everybody left, that my dad was going to flip out the way he did because they're brothers. He knows my dad's temper. He knows what was going to happen. He knows his brother. He's like, yeah, I'm going to set him up. And he then I'm going to have it all on video, exactly what happened. But I already didn't want that camera on from the beginning. I shut that shit off hours ago. So he never got that. So when my dad had him and, was choking him and shit like that in the restaurant, he got none of that because I shut the camera off. Now, I talked some sense into my dad. I said, we got to go. He's trying to get you in trouble. He's trying to jam you up. We got family outside wondering what's going on in here. It's cold. And mind you, then it's Christmas time. It's almost the new year. It's late December. It's cold outside. I said, let's go. Everybody, we're going to go home. We're going to talk about this. I don't know exactly what just happened, but we could talk about it when we get home. This is not what we need to be doing right now. You're going to kill your own brother. You're crazy. So we left. And we're in the car. I had to drag him out of there, mind you. I had to drag him, and he broke everything in sight. He broke everything. And he flipped the whole table, everything. I know you see, like, when people put in them movies with all the Italians and shit, they like to take all the tables and put them together to make one big table. It was like the Last Supper. He flipped every single table through that whole restaurant. They were all connected. And he just went through, flipped everything, glass everywhere, broken. He made sure he made his point. He's like, you don't give me my money, something real bad's gonna happen. And when he got out of there, he starts thinking about what he had just done, and he's like, fuck. I'm like, what? He's like, he got all of that on camera. I'm like, no, he doesn't. He's like, no, yes, he does. He's like, that's why he had the camcorder, set up in the kitchen overlooking the display case, because we was out in the dining area, and that camera just recorded everything. I said, no, it didn't. He said, why would you say that? Yes, it did. He set it up for a reason. I said, because I shut it off. He's like, you shut it off? I'm like, yeah, I shut it off. He's like, really? I said, yeah, why would I lie to you? He's like, why'd you shut it off? I said, because I didn't want to be recorded. I said, I spent enough time being on camera. You think I want to be on this guy's camera? I don't even like him, never did. He's an asshole. And he just kind of looked at me with this weird look, and he gave me a kiss on my forehead. He said, you're definitely my son. He's like, you're just like me. He's like, you're fucking smart. You know that. You know he's a snake, so you shut the camera off. I said, yeah, exactly. So that was that on that. Now, my uncle probably thought he had it all on camera, him basically vandalizing the whole place, but he didn't. Now, some months go by. He's not paying my dad back the money he was supposed to give him. And my dad opens up a new restaurant. He buys a restaurant from this guy named Marcello. And he was a guy from Sicily. And he was going through this big divorce with his wife named Anna at the time. And they didn't want to be in business anymore either. It was similar to the situation with my father and the woman he was with. They weren't in love anymore. They were once madly in love, opened up a business, everything was great, and then they started having problems, and now they don't want anything to do with each other, and they don't want to be in business together anymore. So that's where my dad comes in. He buys the business from them, and now we open up shop in another part of the small city I live in out here in PA, and he starts to use the money from that restaurant to fight his brother, more or less. So now he's getting money elsewhere. He's not having to work because we're all managing the place. And he opens up a couple more businesses, buys a few more properties, and he's just doing things like how he does it. And everything's great. He lawyers up, he starts fighting his brother for the property in New York, and he attempted to fix his relationship with the woman, but what happened was She ended up in credit card debt from stuff from when him and her had the restaurant. So now, because my uncle is not paying my dad the money he owes him, that money was going to the woman that he was with as well for the credit card debt that she had uh, basically obtained from the restaurant, basically spreading herself out too thin with the credit cards, doing all kind of shit at the restaurant. I don't know all the details, none of my business, but that's what I got out of it at the time. So now it's causing problems with them and their relationship. And making an even longer story short, he catches wind that he believes that she's seeing another guy. And the reason for that is because I guess he wasn't around anymore. He's spending way too much time at the new restaurant that we had, and she I guess she has needs or whatever, and she said he wasn't around a lot. Now, she didn't openly admit to this right away. He had to find this out on his own, and this is how we did it. He asked her. She's of course going to deny it, according to him, and he takes it upon himself to act like he's going to leave her house, and he must have spun the block, parked his car somewhere, and he came back. He planted baby monitors all in the basement. I only know this because her son told me this. This was after the fact. Her son told me that he planted a bunch of baby monitors in the basement. And when I ran that by my mom, she said that was typical Frank fashion because he's done it to her back in the day. He used to do this thing. He'd put baby monitors through the apartment to hear what was going on when he wasn't there. So that's what he did. And that's how he found out that she was, in fact, talking to another man, the woman he was with, I mean. So he plants baby monitors under the couch. I said the basement, but he was actually in the basement with the receptive part of the baby monitors, and the actual baby monitors themselves was upstairs. So he must have left. He acted like he left, came back to her house, and there was already baby monitors all through the house at that point. That way he could hear exactly what was going on, taking place when he wasn't around, when he wasn't there with her. And he found out that she was talking to somebody else because he was so wrapped up in fighting his brother with the property in Brooklyn and the property that they had when they had the restaurant, him and the woman, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's when, I guess, when he flipped out. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened, just what I was told. I guess he came upstairs. He tried to talk to her. She wasn't having it. She was probably low-key embarrassed that she got caught, whatever the case. According to him, he just tried to talk to her, and that was that. And they had a little argument, a little spat of some kind, and he left, and that was that on that. According to her, she says he raped her and basically became possessive, like, you're not going to be with anybody else. You're my woman, this, that, and the third. So there's two different sides of the story. I'll never know the truth. But that's what he said, and that's what she said. So after that happened, he came home like nothing happened. I knew nothing of it until, probably a couple days later. And one day he decided he wanted to take a trip up to upstate New York to see my mom and her husband. And my mom and my dad, even though they weren't together anymore, they had a pretty healthy friendship. So he had it like that, where he could just see my mom from time to time, and it was just like, oh, hey, Frank, how you doing, Linda? Oh, everything's fine. They had that kind of relationship. They could just hang out. But most of the time, I was there in the equation. This was a time where he just went up there and saw her on his own, which I thought was kind of strange. So I talked to him the one day. I asked him where he was at. He said, I'm at your mother's house. And I was like, you're at mommy's house? Why? Why are you there? I'm just going through some things. I feel like I've lost I've lost my will to live. And I'm like, why you say that? He's like, I'm just going through stuff. I don't want to get into details, but just know that I'm going through some things, and to I needed to come see your mom to basically get my head on straight. I had to get out of PA for a couple of days. I was like, all right, no problem. I think it's kind of strange and probably a little awkward. You're up there with her and her new man, but whatever, none of my business. So we get off the phone, and I'm at my house, and I'm with my girl at the time, and we're watching TV and listening to music, smoking and shit, things of that nature. I had a bottle on deck. I was getting drunk. They said, I know I hear a knock at the door. I'm like, who could that be? So I go downstairs, I answer the door. It's two cops, detectives at that. They were two detectives, a guy named Detective Gears and some other guy, I forget his name. He said, hey, does Frank live here? I said, yes. He said, are you his son? I said, yes. He said, is he home? I said, no. He said, you have any idea where he's at? I said, no. Now, I knew where he was, but when a guy tells me he's a detective, I'm not going to provide him with more information than I have to. So I just told him I didn't know where my dad was. He said, okay, well, when he gets home, whenever he comes back around, you just give him my card and you tell him to give us a call. I said, all right, no problem. I'll do that. So he gives me his card with his name and number on it. And after he left and I made sure he was gone, I made sure like he was far away from the house, got off the fucking block completely. I called my dad. I said, Dad, you're not gonna believe this, but the cops was just here looking for you. And they was detectives at that. What the fuck did you get yourself into? And he told me not to worry about it. And he said that he'll be back in PA in the morning and he'll handle the situation when he gets back. I said, all right, no problem. So we hang up the phone. He gets back the next day. He goes to the police station and he turns himself in because I guess they was already finna arrest him anyways for whatever reason. I didn't know what exactly was going on yet at the time. So now he's in county and we're all back at the restaurant, getting money together to bail him out. So we go to visit him at the county jail, and he's behind the glass or whatever, and ask him what happened. And he goes, she's saying that I raped her and this, that, and the third, and they're trying to hit me with all kind of charges. I got to get out of here because I'm no good in here. You guys need to scrounge up as much money as you can without hurting the business and get me out of here. So I was like, all right, no problem. So then we go back to the restaurant and, we popped the safe open, get whatever we needed to get him out. We went, got him out like the next day or whatever it was. And now he's out at the restaurant back with us, and we're trying to figure out, where to go from there, because he's looking at all these charges, which wasn't going to help anybody because we were all in business together. He was 50% owner of the restaurant, and then my cousin and I was 25, whatever it was at the time. So we're trying to figure out how to stay afloat and how he doesn't have to go to jail, because mind you, it's one of those areas where everybody knows each other. And the woman that he was with, she was a baker at a local grocery store for many years, and she knew everybody because all the cops, all the doctors, all the lawyers, all the judges, everybody would come into this grocery store and buy baked goods every single morning from her. So she was familiar with everybody. She grew up in this area. She knew everybody. And my dad knew that wasn't good for him, because if he ended up in front of a judge that she knew personally, it wasn't going to go well for him. So he had to get the best lawyer that money could buy out here, which is what he did. And now he's got multiple cases going on. He's got a case with her. He's got a case with his brother for some property out here, and he's got another case with his brother for some property in New York, in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, like I said earlier. So his mind is all over the place. He realizes it's not going to get any better with her. So he starts, he puts all his focus on getting what was essentially stolen from him back from his brother, and fighting this woman who he had said, basically he claimed she was lying on him anyways, trying to do him in and make an example out of him, because she was mad about what happened between him and his brother, and it was affecting her credit and things of that nature. So according to him, she was being a bitter Betty, so to speak, for lack of better words, and she was just trying to fuck him up because she ended up getting fucked over because of his brother. And he's like, why would I rape somebody that I was with for well over a decade? And she went to Women in Crisis and said he did all kind of shit to her, and he swore up and down till he was blue in the face that he was innocent, that he never did any such thing to her. Now, like I said, I wasn't there. It's his word against hers at the time, and all he knew was that if he got hooked and booked for that and had to do time for it, he said he wasn't going to get out till he was an old man. So he basically, he wasn't thinking straight. His mind was all over the place, and he was that type of person. He would try to, what's the word I'm looking for? He would, when something went bad, he would find something else to distract him from whatever it was going on in his life that was making him feel bad. Like a lot of us do. We don't want to deal with things that's making us feel mad or sad, angry, whatever. We want to, we want to be happy. So he starts seeing this other woman. Her name was Fran. Thing was, I don't know what it was short for, maybe Francesca or something like that. I don't know. Italian woman. She was back in New York, back in Brooklyn. He starts seeing her. Now, the last time I seen my dad alive and well, I was taking pictures of him on his cell phone so he could send it to her. And the next day he was supposed to go see her. And I take the pictures, I'm watching TV, and that was that. We had words before he went in his room, and I went to bed, and that was that. Now, I don't know what compelled me to go in his room. He stepped out somewhere. Something compelled me to go in his room. I forgot to mention this part, but this was like a couple days prior to that. I went in his closet, and I was just snooping around because I wanted to see where his head was at, because he was spending a lot of time in his room. I went in his closet, went through a couple of his jackets and things. What do I find? Empty. I found a bottle of some kind of liquor. I forget what it was now. At the time, he would keep like a flask in his pocket, and he had a bottle in his closet. So that let me know he was back to drinking. After 7-8 years of sobriety, he went back to drinking alcohol because of everything he had going on. More than likely, that was his crutch. And then I also found some empty bags of Coke floating around in the pockets of his clothes and stuff, also in his closet. And the one night, he's fresh out the shower in his robe, and I come into the room, and he was in the living room, and I asked him, like, what's going on? What's the meaning of this? Why you been acting so weird? You moving funny. You being real quiet. You sneaking around. You're in and out of here wee hours of the night. What's going on? This isn't like you. This is the old you, but I've never seen it. My mom's seen it. Maybe other people seen it, but I've never seen this from you, because since I came to live here with you, I've never seen this before. What's going on? He said, I can't believe my brother fucked me the way he did, my own brother. I said, we all told you. So from the time that his brother did what he did to him, to That time, which I was about 10 months went by, a little less than a year. All he did all day, every day was talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. He was obsessed. I said, so what are you going to do about it? You're going to keep dwelling on it? We all told you that he was a snake, more or less. We gave you the blueprint on what to do and what not to do, and you still chose to put your trust in this man. You know, he was in Italy all them years and came back. He's not the same person he was back in the day when you guys was in your 20s and 30s. He's a different person now. And he got robbed a lot of money from a family member. So if that happened to him, you think he cares about what you got going on? And he just kind of looked at me. He's like, you're right. You're right. My father was right. Sandy was right. Everybody was right. Francesca was right. Vito was right. Bunch of family members. He start calling out all these names saying everybody's right. They even all told him in Queens. We got family in Ozone Park in Queens. And he had conversations with a lot of people there about it. And everybody told him not to do it. So this is a guy that used to sell guns. This man, my uncle, cut off a dog's head and left it on some woman's stupor in her mailbox because this woman was I guess the mistress of my aunt's husband at the time. So they did some weird Godfather shit and decided to go adopt a dog from some SPCA out in Long Island somewhere, chop the dog's head off and leave it in the girl's mailbox. So this is a guy who does shit like that. Why would you trust him with a lot of money? This is a guy who you know, he was selling guns and shit with my dad at the time, drugs, all kind of shit. Why would you trust him with a lot of money? Because he was with some Jew woman in West Central Park in Manhattan for a bunch of years, and now he acts like his shit is ice cream and everyone wants to scoop. He's a narcissistic person who acts like he's a very good man, but low key, he's a very dark and secretive, disgusting individual who only cares about himself. So after we have this conversation, he just kind of gives me the look like, you're right, I love you. You know, this would have never happened if I would have just listened. I said, you're right, but it is what it is now. We can't hit the rewind button and go backwards. We can only go forward. So now what are we going to do? He just kind of like looks at me, watches TV. Mind you, he's watching the Golden Girls of all things. My father loved watching the Golden Girls for some reason. He thought they were so funny. He's in a robe. Just picture this, a middle-aged Italian man with his hair slicked back, naked in a robe, watching Golden Girls, plotting to murder his own brother. I said, what are you gonna do? You gonna kill your own brother? He gets up all abruptly, goes in his room, says, you're fucking right, I'm gonna kill him. And he comes out with a 38 special. This is a little gun he used to keep in his safety deposit box that I'm sure he owned illegally, or else why else would it be in a safety deposit box? So he comes out waving the gun around and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker. I'm like, are you serious? You're gonna kill him, throw your whole life away? And then what? What's gonna happen then? What's gonna happen to everybody? You know, us, myself, I'm your son. Your brother's gonna be dead in the ground. Your sister, her kids, all of us who essentially, you know, we love and depend on you. We got this whole restaurant and you're going to do all of that. Fuck him. Fuck the old restaurant. Let's focus on the new restaurant and fuck that property in New York. We'll deal with that more when the time comes. You kill him, that's not helping anybody. So then he calms down. I said, and you got to really relax on the drinking. I know what you're up to. You're doing too much. Then he pulls out the bottle of alcohol. He's like, yeah, you're right. I haven't been in good spirits. I've gone back to my old ways. This is what happens when you think that you could trust your own family and they do something like that to you. I'm not going back to work. I've been homeless. I've been on drugs. I've been an alcoholic. I've done all of these things before. I'm not doing it again because this cocksucker wants to bite the hand that feeds him. I said, right. I said, so we just gotta tough it out, gotta thug it out, gotta do what's right for everybody. But I would tell you that if you kill that man, nothing is going to come good of it. So he calms down. He's all relaxed. We had a little more words, and he went to bed. Next day, a couple days later, I'd say, we're at the restaurant. Everything's fine. Fast forward to the day after that, I take the pictures for his this woman he was seeing back home, and he went to bed. Next day comes, I'm in my room sleep. He calls me. I answer the phone. I said, hello, what's up? What do you need? He's like, Frankie. I'm like, yes. He's like, I need you to go in my room and get my wallet. I said, okay. He's like, yeah, I left my wallet on the table, as well as a little piece of paper with a phone number on it. I need you to get that and bring it to the restaurant. I said, all right, no problem. And then the last thing I heard him say was goodbye. He was like, goodbye, Frankie. And that was it. That was the last thing I heard. I was just like, all right, no problem. I'll grab it and I'll hitch a ride with Vito, which is my cousin. That's his sister's oldest son. And he was always back and forth between where we had lived at and the restaurant because he went with a girl up there, but that's another story. So that was nothing for me to get there because I had a car at the time, but I sold it. So at this in particular time, I was out of a vehicle. So I caught a ride with my cousin up to the restaurant. We get up to the restaurant and he wasn't there. My dad wasn't there. So I brought the wallet, his wallet, and I brought the little piece of paper. And he told me he would be there by like lunchtime. So I went for the ride with my cousin up there, and we just basically sat there till he got there. He never came. My cousin, I guess, stepped out. I don't remember if it was to pick up his girlfriend or something at the time, but he stepped out, came back because his girlfriend lived in another town. Like I said, well, we had the first restaurant out here, but now I'm at the new restaurant we had, which is closer to where I'm at now. And he went to go pick up his girlfriend or something like that, came back, and then he get a call, and it's my dad. So my cousin, I'm trying to my recollection isn't the greatest right now, but I'm trying to remember exactly how this happened. My dad, I guess, asked to talk on the phone with him. Now, mind you, I got two cousins out here, Francesco and Vito. It's the older brother, the younger brother. Francesco's running the restaurant. I'm helping out. Vito just comes and goes as he pleases. So my dad knew that Vito didn't really have his hands tied with anything, that if anybody was going to be able to come and see him, it would be him. So he asked for him specifically. My cousin hops on the phone with my dad, which is obviously his uncle. What's up, Uncle Frank? I don't know what was said on the other end from my dad, but he had words with him. And then my cousin left. He's like, all right, I'll be there. I love you. I love you. Hangs up the phone. And he says to us, he wants me to come meet him somewhere. All right, no problem. So he leaves. See you when you get back. Well, what I didn't realize at the time, I thought was kind of suspicious, was my dad's vehicle. I didn't mention this, but his vehicle was in the parking lot of the restaurant. And my other cousin, Francesco's vehicle, he had a 2000 red Grand Am, a Pontiac Grand Am at the time. That vehicle was not in the parking lot, and my dad's vehicle was. So I didn't understand why my dad was elsewhere without his car, and he had my cousin's car. Well, the reason for that was, I'm about to get to that, when my other cousin went to go meet him, it was at a Burger King local, which was like a couple blocks up the street from the restaurant. He went to go meet him, walked in. My dad's sitting there in the little dining area at the Burger King with his legs crossed, and he's reading a newspaper with his reading glasses on. My cousin said, "What's up, Uncle Frank? What do you need? What's this all about?" He said, "I want you to go into the Waymart, which was the grocery store, which the woman he was with had went back to work after everything fell through with the original restaurant they had. She went back to work there." He said, "I want you to go in that supermarket, and I want you to buy some lemons and fruit and vegetables, things of that nature for the restaurant. Just act like you're in there just buying produce and stuff for the restaurant. I want you to look in the back and tell me if she's there, if Sandra was her name. I want you to tell me if Sandy's there." He said, "Okay, Uncle Frank, I'll be right back." So he goes next door to the Waymart, the grocery store where she had worked at. And it's literally right there, like between there's the restaurant, there's the Waymart, which was the supermarket, and then there was the Burger King, all lined up in that fashion. A Hollywood Video, a Social Security office. It was like a little plaza. So he went from one building to the next, literally just probably walked through the parking lot and bought some stuff for the restaurant, came back to the Burger King, and he said to my father, he's like, "Yeah, she's in there, Uncle Frank." He says, "Okay, that's all I needed to know." He's like, "I love you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you later." So they give each other a hug, probably kiss on the forehead, some Italian stuff, and that was that. My cousin Vito came back to the restaurant, and we was basically all just there waiting for my dad to come back, and he never did. Next thing you know, we're hearing all kind of sirens and social media, all of our like Facebook accounts. Facebook was a big thing at the time. Instagram wasn't really a thing yet. So all our Facebooks is blowing up, Messenger and stuff. What's going on? I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. We didn't know what anyone was talking about, but I kind of had a feeling what was going on because I'm obviously the guy who's living with my dad. I live with this man. I know his mindset. He's saying he's lost his will to live. He's going upstate New York to see my mom and going to church with her and her husband and things of that nature for a reason. His mind is not correct. He's on some other shit right now. So we're hearing sirens and stuff, as I said, and people are sending us messages like, "I'm so sorry. I can't believe that's happening." We didn't know what was going on. Then fast forward however much time passed since that started, and them same detectives who came to my house came to the restaurant, and they asked us all very politely they feel like it's best if we please sit down, and they wanted to have a talk with us. And they basically said that he went there and they had words, and he shot the woman, his girlfriend. He shot her. She had to get life flighted to a hospital that was better suited to deal with gunshot wounds, which was out of the area, out in Allentown, PA. So she got life flighted to Allentown, and he took the cops on a hot pursuit to downtown where we live, to a church. And he hopped out of my cousin's red Grand Am, and there was all kind of cops everywhere, and he just started shooting at them. He started bucking at the cops and things, and they essentially had a whole shootout right outside of a diner across the street from the church. And then he ran up in the side of the church to the altar, and he shot himself in the head at the altar of the church because he already knew what it was hitting for. He went too far. And the woman that he shot, his girlfriend at the time, she ended up passing away in a helicopter. And then we had to go to the hospital to identify his body, my dad's body. We went to the hospital, and we had to get in the elevator, and we had to head down to the basement. So I'm up on the, I didn't know exactly what to expect, when I walked in the hospital, but I knew it wasn't going to be a pretty sight. I already knew that when I was up on the top floor, wherever we was at, and they had the nurse or some lady, whoever she was basically giving us the rundown of everything that had transpired prior to us coming there. And they said they had a body in the basement that had needed to get identified. So we take the elevator to the morgue, which was again in the basement. It was cold down there. It smelled funny. There was all kind of like support beams everywhere. I remember all kind of doors everywhere. It looked like something out of that movie Gothica. It was crazy. And we get into the that that wing, whatever you want to call it, that hall where they had him at, and I could see the door. It was cracked open, and I took a deep breath, and I walked in there, and there he was, lo and behold, laid out on a steel table with one eye cracked open, his mouth wide open, fucking hole in his side of his head, right in his temple, like the size of a golf ball. Like, bro, this it was like a huge hole in the side of my father's temple. It was so big, you could. They had it stuffed with gauze. There was blood everywhere, and I remember when I seen him like that. I remember the last thing he said to me, and it sent a chill up my spine. Like he knew that he wasn't gonna be making it home that day. He wasn't coming home that day. He knew what he was gonna do. I don't know what kind of words he had with this woman. Which and another thing too, I didn't shed too much light on this, but I was kind of close with her. She was a nice woman. We drank together, we smoked weed together. Her, me, my family, we used to hang out, have family outings, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, the whole nine. She wasn't just a woman to me. This was like, I'm not going to go as far as to call her my stepmother because I never considered her that. She was just my father's girlfriend. And over the years, her and I have built a relationship. And I couldn't believe that he had actually done something like that. I would have thought that he would have killed his brother before her. I couldn't believe that that actually happened. But I guess he went to her job. She came outside. I guess her shift was up. He had words with her in the parking lot right outside the Social Security office. And one thing led to another, and he just pulled out that pistol he had. And like I said, he had a little 38 special revolver, a little snub nose, and he just let off right in her face, and her face, her body, everywhere. Like he just let it off. And 38s, they don't hold very much ammo, but it was obviously enough. And that's a 38 special. That's not like a little. It's not a 22. So let's just say she had a closed casket, and I'll leave it at that. Because I went to the funeral and all of that, and I was just in shock. They had a they had a service at that church where he killed himself at. Literally the very next day, and I remember seeing the floor at the altar was all cut out. It was all carpet, and they cut out that whole section because obviously there was blood all over the place. So they cut it all out, and there was just this one spot on the floor that was a different color from the rest of the floor in the church, and that's how I knew exactly where it happened at. And that was basically that on that. Since then, every single day, I try to be the best father I could be, and I'll just leave that in the past, bro. Like that shit fucked me up in more ways than one. Just going through all of that, just seeing that is something that sticks with you for your whole life. It never goes away. I've gone to see my father. He always wanted to be cremated, so I have his ashes, and then the woman, she was buried. I went to her grave a couple of times. over the years and said my piece. It was one of those situations where it taught me a lot that you can't trust. Sometimes you can't even trust your own family. You, you don't know who to trust. You can't trust a woman. You can't trust your own family. I was with a girl that said we was having a baby and the baby came out half black and I was at the hospital and everything. Like I've learned from that situation, from everything I've gone through, you can't trust no fucking body. And that's basically it. And I got my kids now. I have two beautiful children. Um, two different baby moms. That's another story. So, and I'm not with either of them, but I got my kids out of it, and that's good enough for me. And I teach them the best I can. They don't know. I haven't told them all the details of that story yet, but they just know that they obviously had a grandfather. He, my dad, of course, and he's no longer with us, and they'll never meet him, and that hurts me every single day that they'll never get to meet him. He will never get to play with them. They'll never get to see how much of a good person he actually was. But because he was just going through stuff, he made a bad decision, So I'll leave it at that. They just know that he passed away. They don't. My daughter knows how, but she doesn't know all the details. And my son, he's autistic, so I'm not even. I don't know how I'm ever going to explain that to him. He's high. He has autism. He's high functioning, and he knows that his grandfather passed away, but he don't know all the details. And that's pretty much that. So I'm out here. I'm still in PA, and I came back to New York for a short time, but I chose to stay out here because it's more affordable, and this is where my kids is at. Mind you, I live just a few blocks away from that church where that happened at, where my very own father took his own life. And I see that. I just passed that church today. I see that church all the time. I pass it all the time. And every single time I pass it, I have that subconscious thought.
Yeah, man, that shit's crazy, bro. And the reality is, though, when you become an adult, you feel me? Because, even in our 30s and shit, like we ain't all the way there yet. When you really get up in age and you become, a middle-aged adult, you realize that, our parents sometimes, they was young themselves and they was making a lot of stupid mistakes in life the same way we made a lot of stupid mistakes. And sometimes we gotta just admit to ourselves, our parents were dysfunctional. You feel me? Some of our parents had mental illness. You feel me?
Right.
We gotta come into grips. We love them and all of that, but we gotta say to ourselves, all right, man, this is what this was. Drugs. You feel me? Drugs. The times that they was living in. You feel me? We don't know what our parents like. My mom's been through a lot of shit in her life. You feel me? And sometimes I gotta remind myself of that. Like, yo, my mom's had me when she was 20 years old. When I was 20 years old, I ain't know shit.
Facts.
You feel me? So you ain't no adult. Like, we look up to them because, like, oh, that's mommy, that's daddy. But realistically, bro, our mothers and fathers was still trying to find their way in life.
Right. And I know that now because it's like you said, I'm 36 now. I'll be 37 in April. I reflect on a lot of things that I've gone through. And like that was just one story. My life has really been a movie. That was just one thing. And I'm sure yours has. We all go through these things. I'm trying to articulate what I'm trying to say, but I'm having a hard time. Basically, in a nutshell, as time goes on, I'm realizing more and more and more that my parents they were basically kids themselves. When they was in their 20s and stuff like that, they was probably doing the same thing, maybe worse than I was doing. And I sometimes something will happen that'll be very, um, it'll be very similar to something that I can remember that they were going through from my childhood, and I'll say, I get it now. I get exactly what this feels like now. They was just trying to figure shit out at the time, just like I'm trying to figure shit out now.
And the best thing to do in the world is talk about it. You got to get it off your chest. You heard? Because if you just keep it on your chest all the time, that shit'll turn to an illness. Know what I mean? A dis-ease. That's the science behind the word disease. A dis-ease. You put a dis-ease in your mind with that shit being on your chest all the time and never speaking about it. You heard, myself included, man. I keep shit on my chest and don't speak about it. But it's like, bro, you need somebody to speak to, man.
Right.
You need somebody that you gotta. And when you hear, and when thousands of people hear your story, it makes you feel better, bro, because there's people out there that been through the same things.
Something with the cemetery, because like I said, it was 17 years ago, so my memory kind of fuzzy. 2009 to 2026, and like I said, I've never really told this story before, not in great detail anyway, just bits and pieces, give people a plain form view of exactly what had happened when they asked me. If they ask me, a lot of times people say, "Oh, where's your parents?" This, that, and I always gotta say, my dad's deceased. And people don't know how. I don't get into details. So, like I said, you're the only person I really ever told this story to, and to the best of my ability from what I can remember from when I was 20 years old. I'm 36 now. Like I said, I'll be 37 in April. So this was a long time ago now. But yeah, I just wanted to add the part where before my dad went upstate to see my mom in upstate New York. I don't know if you're familiar with Dutchess County, but that's where my mom lives, up there, like above White Plains and stuff. So my father had lived with a lot of regret. That being said, I had meant to mention that he had stopped at the cemetery in Queens where my grandparents are buried at to have words with them. He was going to off himself there until something had compelled him to call my mother. That's when he had taken the drive upstate to see her. They then went to church the next day and said a prayer for him with the priest of the church prior to him coming back to PA. I believe that my father was still secretly in love with my mother, and I know that he found comfort in talking to her about his problems. He had apologized to her for a lot of the things from their past that he had done while they were there. He also gave her and her fiance his blessings, and he had wished them both to get married ASAP. It was his way of finding closure with my mother. He was doing a lot of self-reflecting, releasing a lot of bottled up emotions and making peace with certain people. So as I said, that was a sign to me that he was obviously going through some stuff up in his mind. He was mentally ill and low-key planning his own demise. And I saw all the signs. So when he did what he did, it really was no surprise to me, because I already saw what it was hitting for, just based upon his actions at the time and certain things that he was saying. He even said to me one day, we were out driving around. He was driving, I'm riding shotgun, and he was just asking me these really random, beyond just strange questions, just beyond the strange. Like, why would you say that? He was just coming out of left field, just saying really strange things to me, asking me silly things like, who do you think's gonna live longer, me or your mother? And my mom is she's a bit of a worrywart at times, so I was just cracking jokes like, probably you, because Ma was always worried about something. Little did I know he had something in the holster mentally, like he was ready to pull the trigger on something literally, and I just didn't know it at the time. So Yeah, that's basically it. Um, just that little part there. That I just wanted to throw that in there. He had a lot of regret, um, especially when it came to my mom, like I said, and his parents. Certain things that his parents had told him he didn't listen to, whether it had to do with drugs or alcohol or women or just, all around the way he lived his life. He just always did what he wanted to do. And ultimately, he paid the price. And he did what he did in that church, obviously, because he was trying to reconcile with God somehow, some way. And he knew he wasn't trying to go to prison. So he just, I guess you could say, he took the easy way out. And that was the outcome. So I don't know where he went. I don't know if he's in heaven or where. He talked about purgatory. I guess that's like a place that people go, spirits rather, where they supposedly it's basically like jail up there. Now, whether that's real or not, I don't know. I'm not really into religion and politics. I have beliefs, but I can't call it. Like, so I don't know what happened, but it's something that crosses my mind all the time. What happens to someone who did something that severe in their life and left so many people behind heartbroken? Where do they go? So that's basically it. That's all I wanted to say. He had a lot of regret. He was a good man. He just made a lot of mistakes. So I just live my life trying to not be like that. And sometimes I look in the mirror and it's fucked up because I see him in my face. I look in the mirror every day and I could tell I'm his child. It's common sense. Like, I just look at myself and I'm like, fuck. And I got a bad temper too, and I suffer with mental health issues. I went through a lot of shit in my relationships with both my kids' moms, and there was times where I had to really think about what happened with him, and I had to check myself because I could get a little crazy sometimes myself. And it's very what's the word that I'm looking for? It's very surreal to look in the mirror and see a man that's fucking dead in myself, and to see everything that he did. I see that in myself every single day when I look in the mirror. And my kids, they don't know the story 100%. My daughter knows a little bit. She knows that her grandfather committed suicide, but she doesn't know all the details. And as I said last night, my son is autistic. I'm not gonna say he's incapable of comprehending things like that, but he might not absorb it in the same way as my daughter will. He's just very book smart, computer savvy. You tell him something and he just agrees with it. He understands it, but is he gonna sit around and think about it? I have no idea. He's very high functioning, but he's you know how autism is. So, but it's something that I struggle with because I got kids and I'm just out here in PA and going through my shit. I got my little apartment, and that's just it. That was all I wanted to say, really. I'm just out here.